Have you ever felt a kind of premonition, one that makes your being shudder at something that you still cannot determine what it is, as if deep down a voice was screaming at you that something very big is about to become present, not only in your life, but also in the lives of all who inhabit this plane? And it's because we are so immersed in our lives and in the individualism that guides us, that we think that something so big and involving everyone can only end up being the end of the world, a terrible time when everything known is going to disappear. This is something that everyone fears because they feel that the fact that the world ends in the way we know it somehow implies that it will be the end of all time. But they are really mistaken. Indeed, a great change is coming for the world, one that will collapse all systems and what we have as known, but that does not imply that it will be our end. On the contrary, it is heralding a wonderful moment for humanity, one that will first be announced by the collapse of things as we know them. It is not possible to build anything really good and valuable on a terrain filled with irregularities, depressions, and instabilities, because over time that would come crashing down, and all the effort and energy put into it would be in vain. That is why, before giving the world a spectacular new time, we must first see how everything that is mistakenly built collapses, and society returns to its foundations to once again seek to build the foundations of a perfect, beautiful world and society, guided by the most beautiful and pure energies. We all wish to live in a society much closer to the precepts of our Creator and aligned with the energies of the universe, where love, compassion, forgiveness, and cooperation are the principles that govern all its inhabitants and absolutely all interactions between them. But to get there is a price we must pay, one that is not marked by money or sacrifices. The price we must pay is the reprogramming of both individual and collective consciousness, and according to Dolores canon, this is what we could currently be experiencing. We are not about to receive a terrible punishment from our Creator. Rather, on the contrary, we are about to receive a magnificent display of His love and compassion, causing humanity as a whole to return to its foundations, and from there to build something closer to what is desired, and that in turn aligns with the highest vibrational frequencies. Despite not knowing what is guiding this era of change we are experiencing, we must move forward with full confidence that everything we are experiencing is for the benefit of a greater good. And to better understand this process, and also to know how to support it, people are constantly searching for knowledge related to this event, one that will be present in our encounter today, because your calmness in the midst of everything that is happening is important and valuable. That is why today we will walk through some necessary keys to better understand this end of the world, which will inevitably usher in a new world and a new time. Number 1. The awakening of consciousness. One of the first keys to understanding this moment of transformation will undoubtedly be the awakening of consciousness experienced by humanity as a whole. For it will not be few who are called to open their eyes, but rather all souls will feel that force pulling them to believe and see the reality that has always governed the universe. But what is this awakening of consciousness? What does it consist of? Awakening in consciousness is nothing more than that moment when we bring to our conscious side everything that our soul manages at deeper levels, referring to the universe, our mission, our destiny. For all that which intrigues us to know is actually retained within ourselves. Our soul is a perfect creation of God, which has incredible abilities, possesses a force that can overcome any obstacle and surpasses the limits of time and space. But not only that, it is so perfectly designed that it can store information about our journey through the world, the mission that has been entrusted to us, and many other things, all kept away from our consciousness, at least until each one has completed their preparation. Because something that very few know is that the earth as we know it is a space for the learning and preparation of souls, who make the voluntary determination to come here for the sole purpose of evolving and growing, and thus aligning themselves with the highest vibrational frequencies. It is no mere coincidence that in our journey we are confronted with great challenges that test our resilience, our balance, and our capacity to believe, with the latter being one of the most difficult. According to Dolores canon, in addition to fulfilling a function and a mission on earth, all souls arrive here in search of perfection, for in their infinite discernment, they are able to recognize within themselves what they need to work on and how they could do so. Even more surprising is the fact that our souls agree, plan, and project what their experience will be like when incarnating on earth, determining what those obligatory learning points will be, which we see reflected in the complex situations and challenges that come into our lives. As can be seen, everything in this life is part of a plan to make us grow, and while our determinations, our attitude towards life, and the vision we decide to adopt are strong determinants of what our path will be, there are also points that we must obligatorily traverse, in which we will work on the deepest layers of our being, seeking from there to be wiser and more balanced beings. We must always bear in mind that our time on earth is accompanied by a mission, which is known by our soul and is revealed to us after the moment of our awakening. And it is when we are enlightened that we begin to clear and strengthen that communication we maintain with our soul, one that is always present but which we numb due to our lack of focus on the spiritual. Nevertheless, all these barriers between us as conscious beings and our soul and all the knowledge it holds will be overcome, and it will happen as a result of our awakening, because we were created to have it all, and that only occurs from our consciousness and our commitment to aligning ourselves with the energies of the universe and the highest vibrational frequencies. Our awakening implies a moment of profound change, one that must also be seen collectively, and many souls will end up approaching the light and true knowledge, so everything will ultimately change in our plane. When we understand that the reality we inhabit is nothing more than a projection of ourselves and our internal state, we understand that a great change in what we know will be preceded by a change in the internal state of the people who inhabit it. This means that this state of collective consciousness will be affected, and it will not be by anything other than the awakening of consciousness that many souls will have at the same time, which will generate an energy capable of modifying what we see. The earth will never be what we know again, but it's not for something bad. It's simply going through a transformation that will leave it in a better space to inhabit, one that will be beautiful for all souls and conducive for them to manifest their objectives and fulfill their life mission. Humanity will make that long-awaited leap in consciousness that has been sought for so long, and which is precipitated by all the hard work that has been done, because each of the souls that inhabit this dimension has an important role in this event, since even from their personal work, they have been responsible for what we are about to experience. We are all connected, and with the awakening of some, everything has ended up aligning so that the others who inhabit this physical plane also awaken, and they merge their energy with that of the rest of the souls accompanying them, tuning in to a perfect frequency, one that will lead the earth to a space and a form it has never before achieved. Number 2, embracing what we don't know. In the midst of this profound change that humanity and the earth are going to experience, it strongly calls us to set aside our fears, as well as false comforts and securities, and in general, anything that holds us back from continuing on our path, both as individuals and collectively. And you might wonder why this is, and it's because often, when we don't have a defined outlook for our journey, we tend to hesitate to keep moving forward, as we were raised in a society that measures faith or bravery based on what it sees, not on its trust in the process and in the universe. We were conceived under the motto, "Seeing is believing," so we are greatly scared of the unknown, of that which we cannot perceive or find a concrete form for from a distance. And I'm not only referring to objects or people, but the same thing happens with events. When a situation seems to fit into some kind of mold or normalcy for us, we face it without any problem, even when it involves a complex moment for our being. But the moment a situation crosses the boundaries of the unknown, because we simply have no idea how it might unfold. From that instant, it becomes a source of stress and fear in our lives, as if it were a great monster. This has its explanation in the multiple fears and doubts that we constantly generate as human beings, as we feel very vulnerable, and anything that can in one way or another harm us is a huge red flag for us. But really, where do these fears and doubts come from? According to many great authors, when people are asleep in consciousness, they tend to have a great distrust of the process and what a spiritual path can imply for them, as they feel they are in a complete comfort zone outside of which everything that exists is simply bad. This aversion to the unknown is nothing more than the manifestation of our fears, doubts, and lack of faith. And I'm not only talking about the faith invested in a higher and creative being, but also about the lack of faith in the universe, in what surrounds us, in ourselves, and in our abilities. This point may be more strongly related to the first than is believed, because if there is a common mistake in human beings, it is to think that they inhabit a space that is designed to constantly attack them and to avoid at all costs that their dreams and desires manifest. But these are nothing more than erroneous ideas and beliefs that we have often received from our ancestors, but which are ultimately overturned from an awakening of consciousness in the being. Since from there, their enlightenment is imminent, and they end up understanding that the universe is nothing more than a space designed for souls to grow, inhabit in harmony, and manifest their deepest desires, always seeking that the mission entrusted to them be successfully completed. Learning to stop seeing the universe as a battlefield greatly helps all souls to feel more confident in the midst of the place they inhabit. And they understand that the universe is not designed to attack them, but to help their process advance and their desires and mission be completed and manifested. Having removed that mistaken conception from our minds, we can make our being react better to the unknown, and our fears finally leave our lives and realities. With this, we also stop seeing things that are outside the limits of our comfort zone as something bad, and we understand that although the path may have difficult stretches, finally, after each turn, there is an immense blessing for us and a magnificent lesson that will only make us stronger and more capable. Our being is nourished in knowledge and strength when we decide to cross those mental lines that we have delimited, taking from this point each new experience and each situation as a unique opportunity to grow and fill ourselves with knowledge. Many have commented over time that the world belongs to the brave, and indeed this could be a great truth. But bravery is not as we imagine it, because in reality, fear can come to us at any moment. And what makes a person brave is not feeling it or repressing it, but the ability to keep walking even with that fear present. Finally, we will see that what we were afraid of is not really so serious, and fear will gradually disappear from us, silencing its voice and ending the power it has had over our being in the past. This time of change invites us to evaluate this because in the face of the noticeable transformations that are taking place on Earth, and that will only intensify over time, many souls will end up fearing the unknown and generating ideas like the one I initially exposed to you, that everything is going to end definitively. But one of the key factors to navigate through this process harmoniously is to understand that our planet and humanity are going to change. And part of that change will involve testing our faith in that process and in the wonderful universe that houses us. In the face of the unknown, let's maintain a correct disposition, and let's set aside prejudices to open ourselves to experiencing each of the phases of this imminent change that is coming upon the earth and all of us who inhabit it. Number 3, guiding ourselves through the changes. Once again, the point preceding the one we are addressing takes on extremely great importance when talking about this imminent change on Earth and the way in which each of us ends up traversing it. And it is that more than the end of times, we must see this period that has already begun as one of profound change and improvement, not only of ourselves and our interior, but also of the collective consciousness, and therefore everything related to it, such as the physical form in which the earth is conceived. This is something that fills us with deep doubts and fears. So we would like to have a correct way to navigate through all the transformations, both internal and external, that are taking place in our plane. It is not possible to predict exactly how each soul should act or behave in the midst of this small chaos that precedes the great rewards that await us. But if there is something that definitely helps, it is our ability to accept that everything is part of the process that both ourselves and the earth are undergoing, which pushes us towards change, acceptance, improvement, and the pursuit of common well-being, through which we manage to ensure individual well-being and happiness. It is well known that many parts of our process are marked by aspects and principles that seem strange or not very functional from the perspective that has been managed on Earth. But if anything is true, it is that change will not always be marked by known parameters. As has been said throughout our entire encounter, it is a change, a transformation that takes place from the deepest level, and that implies that many times the systems we consider correct will be hit, modified, or even completely knocked down. Everything that is known to us may end up becoming nothing in the face of this process that the earth will go through, but like the phoenix rising from the ashes, we can rise again much stronger and brighter than before. An inevitable part of life is change, only that many times when it presents itself to us face to face, we tend to generate uncertainties and fears within us, but it is actually always there with us. Let's just analyze for a minute the way we have evolved since our birth, because if we were designed to remain in one state, we definitely wouldn't be born as fragile babies who grow over time. Everything in our lives is a process from which we emerge as different people than when we entered. Just as we enter school and come out filled with new knowledge, we can also see how to perform a task. We must first prepare for it. Every aspect of our lives is a product of preparation, and even if we want to appreciate it from a biological perspective, to reach maturity, you must first go through a stage of significant physical changes, one we call adolescence. Let's observe how each part of our life is necessarily a product of another that has helped us prepare and develop the necessary skills to continue our journey. And it's that each part of our life goes hand in hand with the next, leading our being to that cherished state of maturity, balance, and preparation necessary to achieve our goals. Everything around us denotes change and the need for it, so we shouldn't fear when we feel that a great wave of transformation is approaching our lives, because it's simply an event that is mandatory if we wish to access a higher level of consciousness, preparation, and blessings. It's very strange for some to think about change, especially when the premise is that it can destroy you. But rather than seeing things from the perspective of destruction, we must learn to see them from the perspective of remodeling. When we have a house that has accumulated small imperfections over time, which have grown into major problems, the most viable option is undoubtedly to remodel it, even if it means tearing down a couple of walls until they are reduced to rubble. Because after the groundwork is prepared, what will come is a new construction that will ultimately enhance the value of our space. Not to mention that this house will no longer suffer from the inconveniences caused by those small flaws. It will be a more conducive space for those who inhabit it to be well, and will look more beautiful in the eyes of everyone. There is no better example to compare with what will happen to the earth, because it's our cherished home, which has become filled with faults and small imperfections, represented by negative energies and erroneous beliefs. This has made dwelling here affect many souls, filling them with the same contamination that has affected our environment. But ultimately, there is a solution, one that comes from this cycle, that we conclude with the destruction of the known, to remodel everything and restore it to the way it truly should be. Though amidst this process, we may see a bit of chaos, everything will eventually turn out right. And upon completion, we will see a much more harmonious, balanced, and clean earth where our lives will be much fuller. Our home is undergoing remodeling, and with it, so are we. Therefore, Don't feel overwhelmed when you see that great force moving everything and seemingly destroying it, because in reality, it's changing what's necessary for our plane to be a more hospitable place to be, and for the purpose of each soul to be fulfilled. Number 4, developing resilience within ourselves. The concept of resilience is truly beautiful, yet known to very few, and some have a profound fear of addressing it, as it would mean coming face to face with that part of themselves they don't wish to confront. But God has endowed us with wonderful gifts, with which we can navigate all the paths that lie before us, and from which our being can obtain everything it wants and desires. Among these wonderful gifts, we find resilience, which for those who don't know, is simply the capacity that our Creator has instilled in each of us to adapt and flow with the changing energies and the way our circumstances unfold in the environment we inhabit. This goes hand in hand with the ability to embrace change, but rather speaks to how internally, from consciousness, we can surf those great waves of change that are occurring in our reality, ones that I must reiterate are for the benefit of our souls and this wonderful space called Earth. An important part of our lives, or even crucial if we choose to see it that way, is the ability to adapt, seeking to flow with the energies to once again enter a state of well-being and comfort in which we must always reside. Living in fear, uncertainty, and agony is not truly a natural state, nor do these things in any way help to protect your being. On the contrary, these factors can seriously compromise our soul and also our physical body. Although some may not want to admit it, our body is capable of manifesting absolutely everything that afflicts it, communicating with our conscious side so that it can take action and pull us out of that state that has come to break us. Just analyze it for a second, as there is no one who has not broken down in the face of a strong period of stress, depression, or demotivation. This is not merely an energetic fact, because even conventional medicine has come to associate these internal states with the manifestation of serious symptoms and diseases that are even capable of destroying the human being. Although we may not want to see it, everything that exists and appears in our lives comes from our own hand, and only we are responsible for correcting it if it is affecting us in a negative way. Often, in seeking to maintain control, a control that does not actually exist, we lose the peace and balance of our being, thereby affecting not only our environment and what manifests within it, but also our state of health. That is why, in the midst of this impressive change that is looming for the Earth, it is necessary to cultivate the gift of resilience, which lies dormant within each of us, and which we can only develop through our own determination. Let's learn from water, which flows freely between spaces, flowing with each of the forms it encounters on its way and ultimately making its destination perfect. Likewise, we must be the ones who flow in harmony with each of the things and situations that arise, thereby entering into a perfect frequency with the universe and the changes it generates in favor of each realm, each soul, and each space. We must stop seeing everything that happens as an attack directed directly at us, as if the universe were seeking our unhappiness, because that is just a mistaken idea that has been planted in your head. In reality, everything in the universe conspires in our favor and for our happiness in a perfect and harmonious way. If we do not learn to align ourselves with the energies of the universe and the way they flow, it is clear that we will live against the current, and that will generate many problems for us. The universe is wise in its ways and in its moments of proceeding, and although in the midst of our stubbornness we often want to have the absolute truth, the truth is that as we progress, we end up realizing the true reason why everything happened the way it did. So the universe and our soul invite us to trust in what we cannot see, and to let the process continue flowing in the correct and perfect way, without thinking that somehow it would have been better if everything had happened differently, because in reality, there was only one possible way for things to succeed, and that's how they turned out to be. Let go of all those desires for control and see each new experience as an opportunity for growth, improvement, and learning, from which we will get closer and closer to those things that we so desire in our lives. Let everything happen in the way it has to be, and let life flow in its own way, because in the midst of your journey, instead of worrying about what might be ahead and how much of it you can control, our mission is to enjoy and nourish ourselves from each passage, station, and curve that we face. The experience we live is perfectly designed, correct, exact, and infallible. Nothing about it is wrong or discordant, and if you feel otherwise, it's because you are losing the right frequency. Our soul invites us to accept the process and to resonate with it, just as our soul has ended up aligning and resonating with every life it has had on Earth, and with every change that has taken place in it. So it is certain that this is not the end of times, and it unconsciously communicates this to your conscious side. Number 5. The beginning of a new reality. As I mentioned earlier, we must understand these profound transformations as waves that shake the boat of our lives, and with it, our being, which pushes the relationship that takes place between us and the universe towards a new state of well-being. All changes are always positive, and only those who are afraid of what the universe may bring end up promoting malignant ideas of transformation as if it were ferocious beasts that are going to tear apart our lives. It is completely understandable that at many points in our lives we want to control everything and even make it remain in the same way we have become accustomed to, because seeing even the slightest change makes us see very closely that line between our comfort zone and the unexplored outer world. But just as throughout history, we have seen men transcend the lines of fear and the unknown to receive great rewards. In the same way, we will end up receiving pleasant surprises in our lives if we choose to abandon doubts and fears and dare to go further and see what awaits us. Many of the great discoveries of lands made by men originated from the boldness of a few who were willing to embrace whatever the universe had prepared for them, even if it meant leaving behind that state of security and comfort to immerse themselves in a new reality, one that will definitely never be the same as what you are accustomed to. Our being was not designed to be in a specific place, and in fact, if it were, we would not see thousands of people moving from one country to another every year. We were made with resilience and with a whole arsenal of tools that allow us to face different scenarios and continue to find well-being in them. That is why I invite you on this occasion to embrace the fantastic change that your life will bring, one in which the whole world is involved, so there is no need to fear, because even in the worst scenarios, it is possible to end up benefiting ourselves and our process. Throughout history, we have seen how each new world described by man as a result of his desire to explore has ended up being a complete paradise, and seeing that, I invite you to answer the following question. Why should it be different for me? You are not a being destined to fail. In fact, you are a wonderful being destined to succeed, to embrace success, and to live in complete well-being. So you must stop seeing yourself as less, or feeling incapable of facing anything that arises in your life and reality. The unknown can be extremely fascinating, and beyond what is thought, we can move forward with the firm conviction that it will always be good, because otherwise we are limiting ourselves to living enclosed in a space that, despite being known, may not be all that we truly deserve. I always like to say that we are beings designed to have everything, to have more than we often feel we deserve ourselves. But in the eyes of our Creator and the universe, it is quite little for the wonder that we represent. We are so great that the universe is constantly working to make our lives even better than they currently are, and that's why we mustn't stop being open to receiving its blessings and those mysterious impulses it gives us to place us where we truly belong. Although everyday life may lead us to think that what we know is the only thing that can truly be right, we must set aside all those ideas, because ultimately they are limiting and only hinder the channel through which we receive everything that is rightfully ours, from our hard work and steadfastness in the process we are going through. If we understand life as a journey, we must know that often it is not us who will determine the spaces through which we will pass, but it is us who will determine to learn from each stop, because in each one there is a little more knowledge for us. The universe presents us with different scenarios and infinite opportunities to grow and be happy, but it is up to each of us to know how to seize them and enjoy the process that places us at the pinnacle of success. Let the universe surprise you with each new panorama and embrace the idea of a new world, a new time, and a new life, one that is much more beautiful than the one you know. Because from this simple but powerful change is where you will end up finding complete well-being. I know that this change that the Earth is experiencing is overwhelming at times, but it is also extremely beautiful. So I invite you to go through the comments and tell us what you hope to see in the new form the Earth will take for us. We can be sure that each and every one of our expectations will be fulfilled, and if you feel that way, let me know by liking this video. I also want to encourage you to share this with a soul you think needs it, because through knowledge we can be more open and prepared to navigate the waves of change. If you enjoy my content and want to continue exploring with me in the waters of knowledge, don't hesitate to subscribe to this channel, where every day we will seek to fill ourselves with knowledge and light. So, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, to meet again, and continue growing together, sending you many blessings.